Hull KR are the World Club champions and now the quadruple winners. We will be tipping our hat also tonight on Super League Raw Weekly. Luke Robinson takes the Huddersfield Giants to the Casper Tigers this weekend in a game that perhaps the Carbal Army must win. We'll have all the news, all the gossip and all the transfers in Banging or Hanging. The Round 2 Super League Raw Team of the Week will be unveiled. The panel will once again be put on the spot in What Would Oliver Say? And then, Bright Light City gonna set my soul on fire. We're off to Vegas as we start our build-up. And then the big injury debate. Why are so many players falling foul to injury early in the season? All this and more on tonight's Super League Raw Weekly. This programme is proudly sponsored by BYD, the #1 electric vehicle in the world and the fastest growing brand in the UK car market. BYD in Super League Raw, building our dreams together. And the home of Super League Raw, the Bluebell in Warrington. Make this your pre- and post-game destination for the best food and drink in town. So there you go, new titles for the KR Mob. They'll be delighted with that one. Many, many congratulations to all of our Robins members and watchers. Yes, Hull KR, of course, now are the quadruple winners. With me this evening is Greg. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, sir. You well?
Very much so. I'm Mr. Sale.
Good evening, everyone.
Absolutely, and Callum is straight in on Super Chat. Congrats to KR. Raise your glasses to celebrate. Well, I've got a very fine single malt here for you, so there's my glass, well and truly raised for you. Absolutely, and very, very fitting indeed. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a few moments' time. But yes, Joel is also hopefully going to be joining us in a few moments' time. But in a little bit of a difference to the running order, as we're going to be talking World Cup Challenge early doors this evening, let's go to the little man. Here he comes.
What Would Oliver Say is proudly sponsored by South Coast Lane Carpets. From shag pile to vinyl, nylon to wool, you are guaranteed to find the right fit for your home. Contact them today and tell them Oliver sent you. This is What Would Oliver Say at Super League Raw. As a Hull KR fan, last Thursday was a dream come true. I saw Tanganoa in the stands near me, which got me thinking that, should he have actually been in that team? He helped Rovers during the season, but I've moved to Warrington and new signings like Tom Amone and Carl Orton could play, even though they weren't part of the treble-winning squad. Personally, I think the players who won the league the previous season should be the ones who play in the World Cup Challenge. They're the ones that earned it, trained all year, played through injuries, and worked together to achieve something special. It feels unfair that they don't get to finish what they started. I know the problem is timing, as it would be really difficult to bring back last year's squad just for one game, so maybe the World Cup Challenge should be closer to the end of the season before players officially move clubs. If it's supposed to decide how good that champion team really is, then it should be that team playing, the players that earn the right to play on that big stage. What do you think, Super League Raw?
So there you go. What do we think, Super League Raw? Let's talk all things World Club Challenge 2026. And actually, little all, I posed that exact question to Tyson Smoothy. You'll get his answer a little bit later in the show as well. But before we get into that, let's get into the game itself. Reggie, what an incredible night Thursday was for the game of rugby league, mate.
Yeah, it was. Fantastic atmosphere. I think it was the right decision to move across the city to the larger stadium. The atmosphere was fantastic. Great to see some Broncos fans in there, and I think there was a few fans of other Super League teams in there that had Broncos colours on that night as well. And it was good to see that in the end the Broncos made a game of it and made a challenge. I think they were surprised by Hull KR's ferocity at the start of the game. I think it took them a while to get to grips with how the rookies policed over here. But once they got used to it and they started to throw the ball around, they showed what they could do, but taking absolutely nothing away from Hull KR that first half, they absolutely blitzed the Broncos and was a well-deserved win in the end based on the first 50 or 60 minutes of that game. Well-deserved, and congratulations to Hull KR.
Absolutely. I mean, Steph, I thought Broncos for the first 20 minutes, for whatever reason, they were off. I mean, when you've seen Katoni Staggs knock the dot ball on left, right and centre, you know there's something not quite right. I don't know about you. I was delighted that they did manage to get themselves back to a 6-point loss in the end, because that took away all of the people who said, oh, Brisbane didn't turn up. Brisbane did turn up, albeit a little bit late.
Yeah, I think you've got to give KR credit for the way they started as well. I think they really put the Broncos on the back foot. I think they looked shell-shocked with the way KR came out, and I think it was a tactical masterclass by Willie Peters in terms of how you should start a World Cup Challenge against perceived superior opposition. Obviously, it was a very cold night in Hull. That would be not something that the Brisbane players are used to, and they didn't look warm, did they? But again, credit to KR for the way they came out. The atmosphere, as Reggie alluded to, was electric. I think the KR players really raised the level. They had a point to prove after that surprising loss to York. But this was always going to be a different game. If they couldn't get up for this, then God knows what they could have got. For. It was a phenomenal performance, and like you, I'm glad Brisbane came back into it. They did show in that second half how dangerous they can be. Reece Walsh, it was a masterclass for him in that second half on showcasing his talents, because I thought in the first half, like the whole team, he looked a bit off. But they soon found the stride. And I think that if that game goes on another 10, 15 minutes, we may have seen a different result. But the game's not played an extra 10 minutes. It was played over 80, and full credit to KR. And brilliant for Super League, brilliant advertisement for our game, and it just goes to show that we can put on a massive event like that and be successful, and that's what this sport is crying out for the razzmatazz. And I know you're not going to get that every single week, but this is where everyone needs to up the games now, because we have got a sport that's incredible on the pitch. If we can make it incredible pre-match off the pitch as well, then that's a winning formula for me.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Dean Hadley, Greg, can he cut it in the Ashes? Well, he can cut it in a World Club final, can't he? I thought Dino was absolutely colossal.
Yeah, wow, what a performance. And with a fractured eye socket as well towards the end of the game.
And Burgess-esque.
Yeah. No, he was phenomenal. He was worthy of my man of the match. I think most people's player of the match. I think Sky gave it to Lytton. I think most people agree on the fact that Hadley was phenomenal on the night. Stand up to that pack, yeah. Broncos lost Jensen early on, but besides all that, Hadley led that forward pack around the pitch. Phenomenal performance. So yeah, and with an fractured eye socket as well, that just shows how tough the people who play our sport really are against a team like that as well.
Absolutely. Hello, David says David Monks. Hello to you, David Monks. Hope you're well. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, Steph, you picked Jez Litton as your contender for Man of Steel, and I actually think the fact that he got that Man of the Match award when it was obviously Dean Hadley probably helps you out a little bit in terms of your pick. And I just don't know what forwards have got to do to get their just desserts. Do you? I mean, because for me, Hadley all day. I mean, even Jez said it. He was embarrassed. Even Jez said Dino should have this.
Yeah, and players like in the spine positions are always going to stand out, aren't they, above other players? I think it takes a purist to recognise the work that forwards do, which is unfair. Hadley was outstanding, and he was outstanding last season. How he didn't get in the Ashes team is criminal. He's probably the best middle in the game for the moment for me in the British game. So yeah, but I still think Jez Litton's an outstanding player. I think he definitely win Man of Steel. I think last season will go in his favour because I think he went under the radar a little bit in terms of Man of Steel. Last year, he definitely won't this year. People are watching him and there's eyes on him, and that's why he's a right up there as the top contenders for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely, Jez is pure class, but it doesn't mean he's man of the match. And this is why when we do Super League Road Trophy, and of course that's back this year in terms of the 3-2-1. We'll talk you through that when we do our first check-in with Team of the Month. That'll be next week, won't it? For February, our first dip into that one. But for whatever reason, they do tend to give the man of the matches. I mean, for example, Tyson Smoothy got it at Huddersfield. Now, I thought Tyson was steady away. I really did. But did I think he was man of the match? No, I didn't.
To be honest, in the second half, I thought Smoothy had gone off.
Well, this is what I mean. Again, you look at Mike McMeekin's effort in that game. I would say he was more pivotal to Wakefield's win. I'd have to say that. You could argue Walmsley scored 2 tries that ended up being pivotal in the game. You could argue that. Sefner Katimo was exceptional in second row. But, Tyson Smoothy, it's the name. Jez Litton, it's the name. And it frustrates me because, we're passionate here at Super League Raw that every one of our gladiators get their just desserts. And when the man of the match comes from whatever number they've got on the back of the shirt, it should be given accordingly. That's not to say that Jez didn't have a great World Club final. He did. He was very, very good indeed. But Dino, head and shoulders.
Yeah.
Head and shoulders.
The point we're making here is, yes, we're fully aware that a hooker is a forward, but what we're saying is that a hooker is a spine player.
Correct.
And it's the prop forwards and second rows. Like 13 has got a good chance of getting a Man of Steel, like John Asiata, for example, like Elliot Minchella. They're flair players. So we're fully aware that a hooker is a forward position. Thank you for that, just to clarify.
But you're right. But, it's not the person who's taking the ball off his back fence and running in alpha level like Dean Hadley. And that's the whole point that we're making here. Those people in the middle, the old saying, we've said it many a times, that the forwards win the game, the backs by our men. And a hooker really is a third. He's more a third halfback than he is a forward.
He is nowadays. In the good old days, they were.
In the old days, different.
Now they're another halfback.
Absolutely.
You've got to imagine Smoothy gets the award. He was one of the pundits on Thursday night. Now, I'm not saying there's anything in that, but it makes you think, doesn't it? Smoothy's a pundit, and then he gets Player of the Match award on Sunday. It's
just too easy. It's just too easy. And, for me, meters made, tackle busting, clean breaking, quality offloads, all of these are facets of our game, yet they get overlooked. They get overlooked for that little jink of quality. It's like Ngannou. Ngannou in round 1, he got the man of the match. All he talked about was the drop goal, but his game was so much more than that. I wasn't filthy about Ngannou getting the man of the match because he took the line on throughout the game. Every time he had his hands on the ball, he caused KR genuine problems. So I've got no issue with that. But when you see a performance like Tyson Smoothy, don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad performance, but it wasn't a man of the match performance, getting some people giving him the man of the match on Sunday. I'm sorry, we were there. No. And on behalf of myself, thank you very much indeed for the hospitality of Greg Roach, Joel. We had a great day down there at Huddersfield. Hello to John at the Sportsman. Thank you for your hospitality. What a great boozer that is before the game. We had a fantastic afternoon here at Super League Raw with the members. We had Billy Ingram there, a Leeds fan. We had Craig Forth there, a Wigan fan. Simo came down, a Casford fan as well. It was brilliant to be in their company to watch a game of rugby league. And there's just something about being a neutral at somebody else's game. It's good fun, boys. I've had the pleasure of that with Steph a few times. It's always good to see Steph go through the ringer, and I can just sit there and sip my beer. It's marvellous. But anyway,
that's just cruel, Dave. That's just cruel.
It's true. To all of our KR members who are over there in Las Vegas, we hope you got there safe and sound. Loving the pictures. Don't forget to send your videos. We will be documenting their diary throughout this very special weekend. We'll talk a bit more about that a little bit later in the show. But yeah, absolutely marvellous. Right, before we get into our next conversation, but before we do move on behalf of us all, many congratulations to Hull KR. I always say to my wife on her birthday, so if it's a 45th birthday, I always say to her, it's your 46th year now. Just to make her feel even better. So in the same spirit, KR fans, the only way is backwards from here on in. just to give you something to think about. Enjoy it, because you never know if and when these times will come back again. That's for a little old. Dear Lord, you don't know he's born. Now let's answer Ollie's question. Should the World Club Challenge be at the end of the season? Now, of course, his point there is Tyson Smoothy. Great point in question. Klepi Tangino, JWH, Vicky McAloran. These players didn't get the opportunity to play in the biggest club game that there is because it wasn't played at the end of the season. I think we'd all agree that there's no way their new clubs are going to release them for the game. That's just not going to happen, because if they got injured playing for what is no longer their team, that would just be ridiculous. So that's never going to happen. But I've got genuine sympathy for this. I do believe, and there's been a few people in the chat saying the players are done. Well, they're not. They're not. Australians and English and Pacific Cups and the rest of it, they're not done. Top level sport, they're not done. And I think if you ask any rugby league player, it's like Europe. I mean, I'm going to talk round ball, Greg. Yeah, mate, let's make you happy. I don't see anybody saying they're not playing the European Cup because they're tired. I just don't see that. I just don't see that. So if the World Club Challenge was the last game of the regular season, let me tell you now, every single professional rugby league player will want to play it. And actually, when you look at the quality of the playoff series in the NRL last year, when you look at the quality of the playoff series in Britain last year and the finals in both of those hemispheres, they're right up to speed. They could have easily gone again in 2 weeks' time. And I think because they're both up to speed, this is always the thing with the Australian clubs, because it's their pre-season, it would make for an even bigger spectacle for me. Greg, your thoughts?
Couldn't agree with you more, Dave. I've argued that for a long time, that it should be at the end of both seasons. And it's easy now because the seasons are consecutive. You know, many years ago, they are concurrent. Many years ago, they were consecutive. So you maybe not to have... couldn't have done it. But yeah, I agree 100%. And, you know, maybe to add some incentive, maybe hold it somewhere like Dubai, somewhere like that, to give some extra incentive. I know we've got Vegas, I know we've got Wembley, I know we've got Magic Weekend. But if you really want to incentivize it, which is a big word that I can't say, maybe hold it in Dubai, somewhere like that, as a kind of take it away from the cold. Somewhere that's got a bit of heat still. Maybe something like that will add some spice to it, but I'm 100% behind having it at the end of the regular season. 2 weeks, have a 2 week break, go away, lads, have a few days away with your families, and then we get back to it. One last push. Why did we have the Ashes when we had the Ashes? Sure. If there's burnout, we wouldn't have had the Ashes. We wouldn't have as you say, the Pacific Championship. So yeah, 100%, couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. Daniel Long, good evening to you. First time seeing you in the chat, Daniel. You're saying that Jack Sinfield got man of the match. Maybe on Sky, but there's certain other publications that had him as man of the match this week. So there's many people who select man of the matches across many different publications. And for me, like I say, when I see Tyson Smoothy getting 3 points, it does make me wonder, I have to say. Steph, your thoughts? Would you have it at the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think any scenario is going to be perfect. You're always going to find stuff that's, not ideal. I mean, Dubai is a great shape by Reggie, but then people will argue, you've only, logistically, you wouldn't know you were going until 2 weeks before. So it would be terrible for fans to get over there, wouldn't it? So yes, it's great for a middle ground, but then it's terrible for that. I've always been thinking of having a World Cup every 2 years. And I mean, one in Australia and then 2 years later in England, and maybe doing it as part of a pre-build up to a World Cup, maybe, because a lot of the players would be going to it. I don't know. Like I said, that's just me, flinging out stupid suggestions, but there's never going to be an ideal one, because you've always got the thing of, the players aren't there, we've got this scenario, or it's too short notice in another one, and people can't plan for it. But the only time that makes sense is 2 weeks after the grand final for me.
Yeah, and I get the logistical bit, but like I say, just looking at it from a purely rugby league perspective, end of the season. I'll tell you what, you'll hear more about that when we play the Tyson Smoothy interview a little bit later on, in terms of what his thoughts were, because of course he was one of the players that missed out on the opportunity of winning a World Club Championship this week. Massive congratulations to Hull KR, also to Volstagg for getting us a beer. Well done, Volstagg. He's off to Catalan this weekend, is Volstagg. Safe travels, buddy. Hopefully you can still do the final hooter, but no, safe travels, and don't forget, I am expecting an instant reaction. Hopefully, John's going with you as well, and I'm expecting maybe Pops, maybe Mama will be on this week. If you haven't seen instant reaction yet here from Super League Raw, make sure you do. There's a belter at Huddersfield. We managed to get Ken Davey on that one. That was a belter. Just go to our go to our YouTube channel, superleagueraw.com YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel, Super League Raw on YouTube, and you'll be able to find all of the instant reactions there from the last 2 weeks. A really good addition to our show. Right, thanks to South Coast Lane Carpets for sponsoring Alfie, of course. Alfie, God, I'm going to Alfie. Ollie, too many years. It's Ollie this season, but yeah, it's Alfie where I'm going next, ladies and gentlemen. Look, we had a fantastic night last week at the Blue. And a massive thank you from Alfie to everybody who supported it, especially those people such as Steve McNamara, Danny Walker, George Whitby, who was a champion fella, and also Jodie Cunningham and Vicky Whitfield, who turned up on the night impromptu and gave their time and had a chat with us on the night. The entire Sales family, thank you from the bottom of their heart, as do I. Alfie has got big ambitions to go over to watch Bayern Munich. He wants to go to Paris, to Disney, and basically we're well on the way to doing that. I'm absolutely delighted to tell everybody who's listening on the podcast and everybody who's watching tonight live, for those people who paid for tickets and didn't come but used that as a way of donating, thank you. For those people who bought some auction items, thank you. For those people who bought raffle tickets aplenty, thank you. That one night raised £2,691. £2,691 for the Sales family. On behalf of us all, a massive thank you. And get ready for some wonderful photos coming to Super League Raw very, very soon of that young man with a big smile on his face, having some memorable moments with his family. Also, a massive thank you to Violet Gracie's charity. That's right, it was Violet Grace. Violet Gracie's charity, who also came on the night. Heartfelt story, that one. Great charity. Keep your eye out on that one. But they donated £500 as well to Alfie's wish list, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. So a big thank you to them as well. Boys, it was quite an evening.
Yeah, it was. Brilliant, absolutely fantastic night, and phenomenal. In one night to raise £2,500, over £2,500 is phenomenal. Add to that the £3,000 that had already been raised. Add to that the money that's going to be raised from the auction they did as well. It's going to be nearing the 10k mark, hopefully, which is going to enable Alfie to have a lot of that wish list ticked off, hopefully, in this year. So just on behalf of myself and Super League Raw, thank you. I know Dave's already said it, but thank you to everybody who's contributed. You're going to make a massive difference to that family.
Absolutely. Reggie?
Yeah, same from me, on behalf of myself as well. Thank you just to everybody. You're right, Dave. When Violet Grace's dad got up to talk to us all, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. So emotional. How he did that, I'll never know. But what a wonderful gesture to donate money to Alfie's charity. A lovely family, and it was great to see so many people there. Great to see the players giving their time. Great interviews as ever, Dave, and just a real good night. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
Absolutely. And Carla Collier in the chat, she said it was a pleasure to be a part of it. Absolutely right. Lots of clapping, lots of emojis. Thank you. Right, as billed before tonight's show, the big injury debate. And actually, it's interesting. Today in the Wigan Warriors press conference, I asked Matt Pete about this, and quite a few, I think All Out Rugby League, Love Rugby League, all of those have jumped on it, and they're doing the post as we speak on Facebook in terms of what Matt Pete says, which I will share with you. I mean, what he did say is, to his knowledge, there's no current studies going on as to why we're getting so many ACL and so many at this moment in time. That's something that I believe the Rugby Football League should be looking into. There's got to be an answer as to why that is. But, we really are struggling. And Matty said, bottom line is his heart goes out to these players. They've been training so hard all in the off season, and we're only 2 weeks in, and we've already got 3 players that are out for the season, being Blake Taff, Manace Cahill, and of course now Will Price. So that's 3 of them. We've got a few that have got MCLs: Jake Wardle, Matty Lees, Dan Russell, Jaden Ockenbaugh. They're just seemingly coming time and time again. And I just thought it would be a really interesting debate that we could have this evening with regards to this, because I just think it's it's a topic that I think is worthy of a discussion. Now, back in the day, I mean, I'm going to go back, I'm going to show my age now. I remember Mike Gregory had terrible trouble when he's back in the day, which were probably MCLs, ACLs. But again, it was winter rugby back then. It's now summer rugby. It just feels like maybe it's because we get so much information now, with social media and all the press. Never had it so good in terms of that. But it just does seem to be a real problem. I mean, Warrington, case in point, last year, the amount that they had. Are you concerned about how many MCLs and ACLs we seem to be getting?
There is a flag flying somewhere over this, Dave. Yeah, I must admit, there has to be some concern. We call it summer rugby, but remember, there's a fair few weeks of the season played in winter and the really kind of cold weeks of spring, and then we go into autumn at the end of the season. So, but that's by the by. I was reading something about this today that struck a chord in that we're constantly speeding the game up. Instead of penalties, now we get 6 agains. When Warrington played Saints first weekend of the season, I lost count of the number of tackles Warrington had on their own line because of back to ones. That's not criticism of the referee. I'm not saying the referee was wrong. I'm just saying that instead of sometimes the penalty would give defenders time to reset. So when you think you're constantly on the move for 20, 25, 26 tackles, forward, back, twisting and turning, because we want to speed the game up, maybe that's a fact. I'm not saying it is. It's just something that I was reading online today, that we've got this. We're striving to get the game as quick as we possibly can. But could that be to the detriment of players? You got Johnny Lomax, you got Wellesby, wrist and shoulder injuries. They've always been part and parcel of the game. It's a physical sport. Broken arms, broken legs. But the amount of MCLs, ACLs, PCLs that have gone over the last couple of years, have they coincided with this introduction of the 6 again instead of the penalty to speed the game up? It's something that I read, and I'm kind of not saying that it is the cause, but it's just something that was really interesting to see.
Yeah, Craig Fox said, didn't the NFL do a study? I think that was more head injury assessments, or did they do ACL? You'll be better placed than me because you watch that stupid sports stuff. Go on.
Yeah, no, it's a big problem in the NFL as well. So they've actually done studies into it, and I can't remember it word for word, but it's something to do with 15 to 20% more likely to have an ACL for players who play on turf pitches rather than grass. So they call turf what we call 4G. So there's definitely something in that, and I know a lot of Super League clubs now do train on 4G pitches, especially because pre-season, the weather, that kind of stuff. I mean, we've even got teams like Widnes who play on them. So there is definitely something in that. I don't think that's the be all and end all of it, but it's definitely a factor. The facts speak for themselves on that. What we have got now, though, is athletes pushing themselves to the absolute extremes, where we didn't have that in the 80s. There were some players that used to go on a pipe before they played rugby in the 70s and 80s, weren't there? So,
and a ciggy.
Yeah, and had a cig at half time. But I think there's definitely something in the 4G thing, and I think there's definitely something in athletes pushing the bodies to to the peak of what's absolutely possible to get the performance so high, and just maybe overdoing it. And it does seem to be a lot of outside backs as well, doesn't it? That again, it doesn't tend to be the forwards that get them, which is interesting. I know there'll be some examples. Obviously, it just seems, whether that's factual or not, I don't know, but it does seem to be more outside backs that get these ACLs than
the players that rely on a burst of speed.
Explosive players. But whether that might be completely factually incorrect. It just feels that way.
Well, I mean, we had the famous metatarsals in football, didn't we? Because the boots were brought into question. Were the boots too flimsy? And Steve Cartledge, and Steve knows all about springs on the back of his feet. Steve there saying, could it be a bit of the football, the boots these days? Is that a part of it? For me, I just think it all needs looking at. There's got to be a reason as to why this is. I mean, there's a comment there in the chat. I think it's Niall McAnally. Good evening to you. First time I've seen you in the chat. Laying the blame at Wigan's door too, happened against Wigan. I think none of us support Wigan. I mean, Steph's on the other side of the borough. He's got no loyalties where they're concerned. Junior December has no intent to do Will Price's ACL. Never in a million years. Never in a million years. That had nothing to do with it. It's a collision sport. These things are going to happen. What we're talking about here is it just appears over the last and it's the same in the NRL as well. ACL injuries, MCL injuries, they are starting to get a little bit more prevalent. And I think, the amount of money that is wasted in rugby league, I think it would be well worth doing a bespoke study for our game in terms of these injuries, so that hopefully we could prevent more from happening in the future. Because, when you look at the players last year, you look at Matty Ashton, you got Danny Walker last year, to name but two. This year, Blake Taft, the marquee signing at Castleford, we're going to be deprived of him. Obviously, we lost Armstrong, yeah. Now we've got Matty Lee in MCL. Jake Wardle, again, great pro, great player. We want him on the field 3 to 4 months out. We want our best players on the field. And because these injuries, when they do happen, it's either half a season or a full season. We don't want that happening to our superstars. So I just felt it was an interesting debate to have.
As well, Dave, often these injuries look innocuous at the time.
Yeah, well, they're the worst.
That's the thing that's worrying. They look Ben Curry a few years ago scores a try and then he walks off and you think, what's that? Next thing, his season's over because his MCL's gone. Yeah. And it's, sometimes they're happening in a challenge. 90% of the time, they're innocuous. It's while they're running, it's while they're twisting, it's in the act of scoring a try. It's when they're physically actually doing something like tackling, not being tackled, that these injuries happen. So, it's definitely worth a look into, I think.
I mean, heart goes out to Will Price. I mean, the scenes when he went down were just heartbreaking. Let's be fair, that is a player that's had a real tough couple of years. And, we wish Will nothing but the very, very best. We might return to this as well as a topic, but I think it was very, very worthy of a quick discussion this evening. Right, let's get through the other news. Here we go. Banging or hanging? Yes, it's time for hanging or banging. We'll start with you, Steph. Jack Smith gets the Vegas gig, of course. No Chris Kendall. Liam Moore got the World Club Championship, of course. So Jack Smith goes to Vegas with Marcus Griffiths and Warren Turley on the wings and Tom Grant as video referee. I'm sure you're going to have something to say about that, Mr. Sale. Banging or hanging?
Well, it's banging for them.
Tom Grant, video referee, mate.
It's banging for him.
Oh, we know you're a fan of our Tom. Oh, dear Lord. But yeah, Jack Smith getting the gig. So overall, taking everything into account, banging or hanging?
Banging.
Fair enough. Right, over to you, Mr. Nixon. We touched on this last week. I just want to really cement it. Willie Peters to become the England coach for the World Cup off the back of a quadruple. Would you support that with a banger, or would you say no, it should go to an Englishman and say hanging? What are you going with, mate?
If we win the World Cup, I'll have anybody.
That ain't happening no matter what happens. Let's go steady.
Yeah, he's proved himself over the last few years to be the best coach in the country. Banging for me.
Fair play. Back to you, Steph. Joel Tompkins, he did say he didn't want it to seem like sour grapes because, of course, they were well beaten by Bradford. We might talk about that later as well. But he's a bit disappointed how long some of these video referee decisions are still taking. Captain's challenge. He said it should be 3 angles. Make your decision whether it's right or wrong, and let's get on with the game. Banging, would you agree with Joel, or hanging? Would you not?
Yeah, I think it comes back to clear evidence, doesn't it? Which is another hot topic for me this week. But if it's taking more than 3 angles, then it's too much. You know, it's we want anything obvious. We're looking for obvious mistakes, not for complete sanitisation of the game. The rest made a decision on field. If you can't decide after 3 looks, then it stays with the on-field decision for me.
So let's have a bit of sport on that. Lachlan Walmsley, Huddersfield. I've seen them chalked off. Vela believes that he intentionally went to knock it with his hand and kick it. That was Vela's interpretation. Greg, you're shaking your head. Lachlan Walmsley's try? No try that for you?
No try. The more I see it, the more I think it's a no try. He clearly doesn't intend to knock the ball onto his foot. The fact that he does what he does, he's skillful, but it's a knock on all day long. A knock on all day long, as far as I'm concerned. People might disagree with me. That's my opinion. So yeah, not a try.
On that, Steph, it's one of those where it's a dangerous precedent, because if you lose control with your hands but then kick it, you've just set a precedent. The whole point of rugby league is your hands are in control. And the whole point of a drop goal is it goes out of 2 hands. The whole point of a bomb, it goes out of 2 hands. This was a tap and kick. Try or no try for you, mate. Did they get that right? Should Vela have overturned the on-field decision? Even Lachlan Walmsley didn't think it was a try.
Yeah, I think to the letter of the law, it was the right call. Now, this is where we can have a separate debate on interpretation of the rules. But to the letter of the law, I do think he made a movement to the ball. We could argue whether that should be allowed as a thing, but he definitely changed. You know, he saw the ball dropping and moved his foot towards it. So therefore, he's made a kicking motion. So to the letter of the law, the decision was correct for me. Whether that is the right interpretation of the rule and whether we need to change that is different. You know, like you just said there, Dave, you know, you've got to have 2 hands on the ball prior to it being dropped for it to be a kick. But that's not the rule at the moment. So that could be one we could change for the future. Yeah. But to the absolute letter of the law, the decision was correct and the try was right to be overturned.
Fair enough. So 2 difference of opinions there. I'll have splinters. I'm still not. I'm not happy with it. I understand what you're saying, Steph. But there's a part of me that's not happy with it. Right. Let's.
I agree. I'm not thrilled about it. I'm just saying to the letter of the law, it was the right call.
Yeah. Maybe it needs to be just tidied up then. In that case, right then. Let's go back. Let's go back to Reggie. Matty Russell signs for the Catalan Dragons. Banging or hanging for the Dragons?
Oh, well, it's definitely banging for Matty. I mean, the guy's had more clubs than Nick Faldo, hasn't he? I think he's there to fill a spot of injuries. If they have a lot of injuries, I think they're edging the bets that he's going to be very much a squad player. So, you know, a great year in the sun for Matty. And somebody that is, at the end of the day, no matter what you think about Matty Russell, he won't let you down. He's scored a fair few tries in his career. He's played for a few big teams. He's appeared in a couple of grand finals. He knows what he's on about. So I think banging for Mr. Russell, let's say.
Let's play some Reggie bingo, because Reggie's right. He's absolutely right. Matty Russell has had, if he gets his debut for Catalan, 9 teams he will have played for in Super League. So come on, let's do it, boys. Steph, give me a team that Matty Russell has played for thus far.
Leigh Leopards.
Correct. Reggie.
Warrington.
Well, the obvious ones out of the way. Back to you, Mr. Sale.
Wakefield.
Correct. Reggie.
Wigan. Correct.
Back to Mr. Sale.
Toulouse.
Correct. Reggie.
Huddersfield.
No, Reggie, no. Do you want to have another go, Steph?
Current Super League sides.
Yeah. There's a few there, mate. Yeah.
OKR.
No, it was the other one. It's FC.
FC.
Yeah.
He'd been up at Hull.
And Leeds Rhinos. And Leeds Rhinos.
That's what I meant when I said Giants.
Yeah, he went Leeds Rhinos, didn't he? On loan when they were well down on troops. Bless the little cat himself. Right then, Mr. Sell, back to you. Casford Tigers this coming Friday night. Happy hour it is, 5 till 6 p.m. £4 a pint in the fan zone. Are you a banger on that or a hanger, mate?
Oh, I'm all for reducing beer prices and happy hours. That's absolutely banging. No, I think one of the big benefits of having your own stadium, maybe not the best facilities, but you can make decisions like that, which, at the end of the day, if you can incentivise your fans with a cheaper beer at the ground rather than in the pub, then that's always a good thing. And the more fans we can get into the grounds earlier, the build-up and everything gets better. It's all naturally flowing, isn't it, to that build-up and big hype before a game. So yeah, brilliant from Castleford. That's absolutely banging, and good to see a club looking after their fans.
But what they've got to do is make sure that once 6 o'clock comes, there's entertainment. Got to make sure that there's entertainment. And on that, Mr. Scholes is in the house. Here comes Scholesy. Hey up, matey. How are you doing, pal? You okay?
Good evening, everyone. I do apologise I'm late.
Don't worry about it, mate. Right, in the spirit of love and best wishes, we'll bring you in, Joel. We're doing banging or hanging. Nigel Wood would appear to be keeping his place at the Rugby Football League. Is that banging or hanging, Mr. Scholes?
Yeah, it is good because he's somebody who isn't shy of making his opinions known. He is happy to make decisions that are tough. The only thing is, he's not always had the best of histories in the league with people, but with other leaderships involved, I think it could be a good call. It depends in what capacity he remains and if it does stay the same. But if there could be scope of other people taking a lead and he's just a part of that, of like a consortium, for example, then yeah, it would be a very good move.
Well, in the chat, Ryan Hicks says he loves the show. You've not seen nothing yet, mate. See me in a week's coming in a bit. If you're new to the show, that's a treat. I don't mind telling you. Anyway, we move on. Reggie, we'll come back to you. Matt Percival being really strongly linked now with the Huddersfield Giants. With their injury concerns, a lot of people surprised over this. Of course, Mark's had his problems with his injuries. But based on where Huddersfield currently are, would this be banging for the Giants?
I think so. I think it'd be a great move. I think the time for talking is now over at Saints. I think a decision has to be made. But yeah, I think if he were to go to Giants, and he can stay injury free, I think that would be a great move all round.
Well, what I will say for those people who are questioning Mark Percival, he's averaged 22 games in the last 3 seasons each season. 23, 21 and 23, which isn't bad. Yeah, it isn't bad. So, for those people who think he's always not playing, not exactly correct. He does all right. He does all right. As a neutral, Mr. Sell, I'll let you go on this. It's been announced this evening that Luke Yates has extended for 2 more years at the Wire and will remain until 2028. Banging for the Wire, would you say?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, he's been very consistent, I think, in his performances. I don't think he's done anything. He's always been a 7 or an 8 out of 10 for Wire. He's had the odd 10 game for me, but a very consistent player. Does all the tough stuff, goes unnoticed, a bit like we were saying about Hadley at KR. Does a lot of things that people don't recognise, and his defence is ferocious. He does a lot of the hard stuff. So yeah, this is exactly the type of player that Wire need to retain and keep hold of.
Fantastic. And then last but not least, Joel. I mean, Joel, mate. You know what I mean? Over 6,000 at the Giants. And what we're waiting for pre-game entertainment. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. No,
you've upset him.
No, he knew what was coming. He knew what was going. He turned himself off. He knew what was coming there. We'll bring him back. Joel, mate, 6,000 people begging for entertainment. It was a tight game, but then you bring this out. What's going on, mate? Harold the robot. Come on. We've had Dizzy Rascal at Warrington, which we won't get Reggie talking about that. Joel, what was this? Please help me. What's this about?
There's been many gimmicks within the game of rugby league.
Yeah. Are you hanging or banging this, Joe?
If I went banging, I think I'd be kicked off the show. The amount of penalties I'd get. No, it's the most ridiculous thing. Can't even walk straight. The fact that he had to tie it round to his hand, I think, was just absolutely shocking. If he could have held the ball with both hands and ran it like a rugby ball and ran to the referee and tackled him, then that'd have been brilliant. That'd be TV gold.
Mate, if it was that good, Luke would be signing him.
I said before the game, if he plays well, he might get a second game.
He didn't have the ball on, mate. He didn't have the ball on. I'll give him that. But dear me, mate. I mean, I have to say, I was loving the company. I was loving the atmosphere. It was fantastic. We were doing a couple of lives and everything, and then that comes out. And I'm like, what am I seeing here? This is unbelievable. But anyway, there you jolly well go. Right, I'll tell you who was delighted for the weekend. Absolutely delighted for, and that was Paul Rowley. I was over the moon for Paul. I know you wouldn't have been, Steph, but we'll just talk Saints for a minute. I was absolutely delighted for Paul Rowley. And I had the opportunity of just catching up with him for a few moments this afternoon. And this was that. Here we go. Hi, Paul. You well?
Yeah, good. Thanks, you.
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, the wide to right got a lot of press last year for St. Helens, but I thought Shane Wright against Leigh showed what a great second row he is on both sides of the ball. He really turned up for you, didn't he?
Yeah, he's just consistent, isn't he? So I think a good player is a consistent player, and Shane provides that. So yeah, he won't get too many wide to rights, I don't think, in his career, but but he's like I say, he's an 8 out of 10 every week, and that'll do for me.
And finally, Paul, I mean, you're under the cosh. I mean, in terms of adversity, as a new coach of St. Helens, you must have been delighted to see the qualities of a Saints team come to the fore in terms of managing that adversity, working hard for each other and getting over the line.
Yeah, we had a lot of belief, and like I think with if we didn't get the injured players, I felt we started the game really strong, felt really confident at that point. We conceded our first try with a man off the field when Johnny went down, and the fourth official incorrectly wouldn't allow us to put our sub on. So we were a man down in that respect, which hurt us a little bit. And then we had people out of position. So, but they dug in and found a way, and ultimately, quite often in sport, that's all it's all. It doesn't get any more complicated than just finding a way, and we did it defensively, and we built so much pressure with what we did with the ball in hand that the weight of possession and territory made it possible for us to come away with the win.
Bodes well for the future. Safe travels. I look forward to watching the game. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, so there you go. And this is why I was delighted for him. This was social media of Saints before the game. Because when I saw the team sheet, we said on Captain's Run, I had it on decent authority that Lewis Murphy was coming back, Dion Cross was going to be in centre. And I just got that feeling, oh dear, this, especially when I knew Robertson was going to be on the bench, and I'm thinking this could get interesting on social media. And it did. It got very interesting. Absolute joke that Cross gets in front of Robertson. Personally, it was a masterstroke because Cross had Tessie New in his pocket all night. And as good as Harry Robertson is, and he is an incredibly attacking player, I thought that was a defensive masterstroke from Paul. I have to say that. And more people linked in on that before. Sean Elliott, that travelled well. He said, oh dear, Wellens Mark 2. That really did. I mean, Paul Rowley, one game in as not counting the Challenge Cup, one Super League game in, Rowley and Breer's not the answer. It's just embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. This is a coach, a revered coach, who's got a gig at Saints, and this is how the Saints fans were behaving on social media, and possibly not in the ground, maybe a few of these just sitting at home on their armchairs. But for me, that's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing 2 games in. It's going to take time for this team to gel, gentlemen. And it's for that reason that I was delighted for Paul at full time. Because let's be fair, Steph, I know that you're a bit filthy in terms of some of offsides, some of the things that were going on in the game. But if Leigh Leopards would have lost players in the game like Paul did, having come off a defeat at Warrington, not a really good first half at Warrington, then you're losing Nenny McDonald, then you're losing Johnny Lomax, Dion Cross ends up going off at the back end, and you're moving your pieces around to stay in the grind against, let's be fair, a quality outfit in Leigh, and to get over the line. That was wonderful for Paul Rowley, wasn't it?
100% it was. And, on a match day, we're all going to have allegiances to our own sides, and we're all going to see things differently. And yeah, there was elements of that game. I mean, when you're at the wrong side of a 9-2 penalty count, that's never a good thing. But Leigh are just as much to blame for that as the referee was, in my opinion. Saints were great, and you can't to lose two key players in the game. I thought defensively they were superb in the game as well. Leigh were good first half, poor in the second, but you've got to give Saints credit for that. In terms of, they threw Leigh off the game. I was quite relieved to only lose by 2 points, but this is a team that most sides are pipping to be top four in St Helens. So it's not a disaster from Leigh, far from it. I don't think we could have played much worse and only lost by 2 points. But to talk about Saints and Rowley, you've got to give the guy a chance. It's two games in. And what Saints fans should be doing is recognising the bravery of a new coach to make big decisions like that. That takes to go to a club like Saints and to know that you're going to get that from some of the fans. Yeah, and it's worked out in his favour, and I'm glad for Paul that it did, because that's give him a bit more authority now to challenge. Not that he's, probably looking at individual comments from Saints fans. He'll be concerned about the wider fan base. Of course he will. Yeah. But he can now go back and go, well, I made a call. I got it right. So yeah. I'm hopeful that those same fans have given him credit for that performance on social media after the game.
Well, yeah, and sometimes they embarrass themselves because they forget what they said 80 minutes ago and make it look as if they're the greatest Saints supporters in the world. But we won't embarrass them by throwing them on the screen. I think they've been embarrassed enough by the opening comments before the ball had even been kicked. Rebecca Frey, thank you very much indeed for that. Rebecca's getting us a drink. She's saying good luck to the Rhinos and the Robins fans over there in Vegas. Good to see you, Rebecca. Hope you're well. I mean, look, Greg, some people say, oh, it's Salford. It's a Salford team. Tell you what, if it is a Salford team, Shane Wright, I mentioned him there to Paul, 28 tackles in D, 15 carries, 115 metres from Shane, had a stellar game. Dion Cross, like I said, to have Tessie New in your back pocket, and he did. He nullified Tessie New in that game. And Robertson, for me personally, wouldn't have been able to have done that. I mean, God, he didn't have to pay for it with all the claret on his face and the broken nose and all the rest of it that went with it. But, fair play to Dion. He put his body on, and let's not forget, he got an assist on the night. And then you talk about Shorrocks. Shorrocks, Greg. I mean, we saw it at Warrington, the link-up play with Hastings. Shorrocks at 13, immense. And again, that takes a lot of you-know-whats, because Morgan Knowles was such a revered and quality player. Last year, for me, he had his best ever year at Saints. I thought Morgan Knowles was unplayable. So to then say, right, I'm going to bring Joe Shorrocks in and he's going to be me starting 13, that takes a lot of you-know-what. And then he gets repaid with a phenomenal performance from Joe. A great try, 46 tackles in defence, broke the line 3 times, carried it 14 times for 77 metres. He had his hands all over the game. How good a performance was that from Joe?
And guys said on the night in the chat that for me, Shorrocks was very unlucky not to get player of the match. For me, it was the way he slotted into the halves. He was popping up at scrum half, at standoff. He was propping up at the loose. His all-round game was superb. For me, the best player on the park. And to go back to Paul Rowley and the side he picked, as you were saying, people saying it's Salford Mark II. Well, those people are clearly forgetting that Paul Rowley took Salford to a grand final and a Challenge Cup final. Yeah. He moulded an unfashionable team, no disrespect intended there, an unfashionable team of unfashionable players, and took them within 80 minutes of being champions, 80 minutes of being Challenge Cup winners. These and they were very unlucky in that challenge, in that grand final. They were very, very unlucky. Some decisions went against them. Paul Rowley picks a team that he thinks can match the opposition team. We're not playing. It's not playing like Football Manager on the PC. This is a coach who sits down and studies the opposition, and thinks that maybe Robertson, maybe Cross is better standing up to Newey than Robertson is. Robertson came on and had a wow of a game. When Lomax went off injured. Let's face it, he's had one of his key players out for a fair few weeks after the first game in Wellesby. So he has to do that while catering for Wellesby. And then in the game, McDonald goes off, Lomax goes off. And to get the win, I think it's phenomenal from Paul Rowley. Because Leigh in that first half, I thought Leigh were going to run away with it. And the way Saints came back, and as you say, Shorrocks was instrumental in that win. For me, Saints fans, be a little patient. Nobody wins a grand final second week of the season. Ask Leeds fans that. Nobody wins the Challenge Cup after the fourth round.
No.
So just be patient, give him time, and be careful what you wish for.
Well, I know what I'm wishing for, Joel. I mean, there's a part of me that hopes that Paul does really well, because knowing Paul, I've been in his company quite a few times. He's a champion fella, great guy. He plays a very, very nice brand of rugby league. If he's successful at Saints down the track, I know Paul harbours ambitions to be the England coach down the track. And for me, one thing that a Paul Rowley England side would do is, well, we know he's a student of the game. We know he's a phenomenal coach, but he'll play to win. He'll go and he will play to our strengths. He'll want to try and take on the Aussies and go full throttle. And that really excites me. And if that's in 5-6 years, when the likes of Dagnall, Whitby, Irwin, Kai Taylor-Ray, and I could keep going on, Farron, all these get to that level of fruition, that could be a very exciting proposition. All those young, talented players, the two wingers at FC, I mustn't forget them. For Paul Rowley to be leading that in 4, 5, 6 years' time, if he's successful at Saints, will be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, and you'd hope that all the Saints fans were like our friend Volstagg. He never ever has commented anything like that. He's one of the Saints fans that we love, because he's been so patient. And like you said, that's what's been needed. Well, it's been mentioned, but we have to take it back. Ian Watson did a great job at Salford. Great job. Paul Rowley did a better job than Ian Watson did at Salford.
Yeah.
So if Paul Rowley wants to bring some of his Salford players over to help the team because he knows how to get the best out of them players, so be it. Yeah. And if Paul Rowley, I'm sure, don't give two stuffs what anybody else thinks about his pickings for the game. Paul is the type of coach where he will pick what he sees to be fit, and clearly he did that really well. And this is another point: them Saints players that have come through, the young players that we're talking about here, that they've been quite entrenched in how the old coaching style of Saints were under Paul Wellens and things. It's a new coach where they've got to have that time under his belt. Paul's going to instill over not just this season, but the coming couple seasons, some real changes at St Helens, and the players have got to be willing and ready to adapt. And if they're not, Paul will be more than happy to say, "Here's the door, and goodbye." And that's what we'd hope for Saints going forward, because he is the man to take them there.
Absolutely. Steve Rudge saying there to Nige, who's just bought us a beer. Thanks for that, Nige. That it's only £4 before 6. It's no longer 6. Well done, Nige. Well done, mate. But no, happy days. Thanks a lot, Nige. Loving the show up there in Tiger Town, as he calls it. No, look, we'll call it there. Brilliant. Delighted for Paul. Give him some time. Dearie me, 2 games in. Wow. And you know what? It's not that I'm anti-Saints. I want Paul to do well this year. So if I was anti-Saints, I wouldn't want Paul to do well this year. But come on, where's your class? Dearie me, it's 2 games in. Come on. Delighted for him. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Right, it's that time. We'll talk a little bit about the other games in a moment, but we're wrong not to do Team of the Week, wasn't it? So, ladies and gentlemen, are you feeling hungry? Time for Team of the Week. The Super League Raw Team of the Week is proudly sponsored by the Pentagon Motor Group. Visit their website today to find the make and model that you desire at the right price. It's the Super League Raw Team of the Week for round number 2 with the Betfred Super League 2026. Here we go again at 1. Is J Field. No big breakfast is complete without a bit of moist, and whether you like it red or brown, the outcome is the same. An accompaniment that lifts the ingredients of the plate to new highs. At 2 is one of the hash browns of Super League. He's crunchy on the outside, but soft in the middle, so we're led to believe. Good evening, Mrs. Hall. All we know is why Sebo got the hype. Ryan Hall did the business better. At 3 is Ruben Rennie, who showed he's the go-to should indigestion strike at clutch points in a game. What a performance from Rennie this was. It was fast-acting and settled the stomachs of the Toulouse faithful very quickly. At 4, while 1 Cumberland sausage is satisfactory, 2 deliver the gut fill to make your day, and Wonga Blake has 2 tries in 2 games and 2 picks from 2 in our team of the week. I bet he can run through walls too. At 5 is Sam Halsall. What a try in the corner it was from Sam. It was akin to a soft poached egg that made everyone in the ground ooze with joy. All around great performance in defeat this one, Sammy boy. Keep up the good work. At 6 was the plum tomato on the field for the Rhinos, Brodie Croft. Just like the juice on the plate, Brodie was all around the field, showing his full bag of tricks, much to York's dismay. At 7, well, a breakfast without beans, well, it's just not a breakfast, is it? And Harry Smith brought a canful of his best kicks to control the game from minute 1 to 80 at the Brick Community against FC. At 8 is Lambert Balmus, the French toast of Toulouse. Yes, he's hard on the outside, loves a crunching tackle, and when put under tension can break tackles like a snap of the finger. At 9 is the man who makes scoring tries out of dummy half close to the line look as simple as me dunking me soldiers into me soft-boiled egg. And yes, Adrian Lamb was boiling too at full time thanks to Clark & Co. At 10 is Ethan Havard, who put a refined performance together akin to salmon and avocado on soda bread. It is great to see Ethan has not allowed the disappointment of the Ashes to dent his confidence in 2026. At 11 is a man who may be last pick on the menu, but just like porridge, Seth Nicotimo can't half warm you up and make you warm inside when he puts his game together like this. At 12 is Shane Wright, who produced a gritty performance that was very much like bacon at a truck stop cafe. Yes, Shane did the tough stuff in defence and ran lines without any gristle. And finally at 13 is Joe Shorrocks, who, whilst for many is a vegetarian sausage to Morgan Knowles' finest pork, it's all about perspective as they both look good on the pork and satisfy hunger for top quality loose forward play. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your breakfast edition of Team of the Week. Yes, there's nothing like a full English, is there, at 9 o'clock in the evening. But there you go, boys. The team of the week for this week is in the bag. Some people will be surprised, but we're getting to the detail here at Super League Raw. Wonga Blake has scored 3 tries. I thought he'd scored 2 last week. It's 3 in 2 for Wonga Blake. But in fact, let's start there. Wonga Blake, incredible. Absolutely incredible. The start is made for the 2026 season, Reggie.
Yeah, I'm not so sure one of those tries should have stood, to be honest. But yeah, people have questioned him when he was at Saints. I think I said before the season started, probably on my bingo sheet, that he's got a point to prove. And so far, he's deserving of his spot there in that team of the week.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Steph, just to clarify the point, here you go. 2 games in, 3 tries, 2 assists, 10 busts, 1 break, 6 offloads, made 5 errors. That he needs to tidy that up. He needs to tidy his tackling up as well. Only a 50% tackle efficiency. That's a concern. So it's not all great, but certainly from a go forward, 32 carries, 209 metres, 6.5 metres a carry. There's a lot there that I think not many people have had Wonga down for at the start of the season.
No, and I mean, when he came into Super League, he was, a lot of hype around him, wasn't he? And I still remember the game at Leigh when he was wide open and they still didn't score off it. It was insane. I think that was the nail in his coffin at St Helens. But no, his attacking play at Bradford, he just seems to have fitted perfectly into that. I know he's had a season in the Championship with them, and I think that's done him the world of good. But he's certainly burst on the scene in Super League in the opening 2 rounds.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Also in there, Ruben Rennie, Joel. I don't know if you saw the game down in Toulouse, but let me tell you, he had a stellar game in centre. A player that not many people in Super League would have known, but they know him now. He was very, very good against Cass. Oh, Joel's having issues. We'll go back to Reggie. Same question, Reggie. He is. He's been outstanding in that game for Toulouse.
Yeah, to me, watching the game, he was a standout player amongst a really good Toulouse performance. I like the look of Ruben Rennie. He's a no nonsense centre. He's the kind of centre that wingers will feed off and feel confident because he's he looks quite solid in defence as well. But going forward, he is a handful. So excited to see what he can do for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Joel's back. Are you back with us, Joel?
Yeah,
he's back. Right, Joel. Ryan Hall. Again, in the official Super League team of the week, it went to make a Sevo. I thought Ryan Hall was far better on the opposite wing. And again, this for me is where the story Sevo making his debut, but it doesn't mean he's team of the week, does it?
No, and unfortunately, that's been the case over the past however many years, as far as we can remember, that's unfortunately the narrative that they spin. It's when someone's been in expectation of playing for so long, plays and plays well, they get the spoils. But unfortunately, that's why Super League Raw's team of the week is the best one that you can get, because it's down on the stats and what they've actually done in game, not so much the hype behind the players. It's not sensationalism, and that's something that you've prided yourself on, Dave, and that's, Ryan Hall is deserving of his place there, because he is such a great player, and the fact that he does it at his age is even more impressive.
I'll tell you who was impressive, just while it's in the chat there, because I know we've got a couple of Tigers fans watching us. We've given great tribute to Ruben Rennie there, but I think Mapalangi has started well for Castleford. I've got to give him a note in dispatch. He's nowhere near team of the week, but has started really, really well for the Castleford Tigers. Well done to him. Greg, on other podcasts, they don't mention Super League Raw for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why that is, but I have no problem in mentioning them. The question on 4020's podcast last night was Harry Smith. He's not the right number 7 for the Wigan Warriors, which completely and utterly took me by surprise. I venomously disagree. I think Harry Smith is pure class. He kicked FC to death. Yes, Jack Farman is a talent. Yes, that is a headache for Matt P. But Harry Smith, for me, he's just the architect. I don't understand how anybody can question Harry Smith.
Remind me again, is this the grand final winning Challenge Cup winning Harry Smith?
It's the same one, yeah.
Yeah, that's been the number 7 in probably the country's best rugby league team for several years now, bar last season.
That's him.
Yeah, they've got a point.
Yeah. We'll leave that there.
Talking absolute rubbish.
Yeah, we'll leave
Believe me, if he wasn't good enough to play for Wigan, he wouldn't be playing for Wigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy days. I'm quite happy to quote other people. Feel free to quote me. But anyway, that's by the by. But no, yeah, I mean, look, that's the team of the week. We've talked about Stokes. We've talked about Shane Wright. Seth Nicotimo. I mean, I have to say, just remind you, gentlemen, last week we ended on some of the things, and I'll ask you the question later in the show in terms of some of the things that you really enjoyed in round 2. I'll tell you what I enjoyed in round 2. I like an offload, boys. I like an offload. Seth Nicotimo in the build-up play for the Cameron Scott try. Oh, go on, take a bow, lad. It was a thing of beauty under the post. Go on, Seth boy. Absolutely love that. And in closing, Joel, in terms of the team of the week, Ethan Havard. Now, for those who watched us last year, you'll know how disappointed I was that Ethan got the opening Ashes game. I didn't think he was ready for it. I thought he was hung out to dry. I said it at the time. And what was really, really good about seeing Ethan on the field this weekend was it's not affected him. I thought Ethan Havard in that game stood up brilliantly well against a good size Hull FC pack. He really attributed himself well. I was delighted for Ethan.
Yeah, and he's the kind of prop that you'd kind of want in the type of player that we have this season. He's a great player, and I think it's going to be his year to show what he can do and right some wrongs. And it's open playing field now as well, especially with the England job being opened up. All the spots now are almost reset. And he's got his opportunity to show what he can do.
Yeah, there was also a little chat. It's Niall again, Niall McAnally. Niall, please go over to YouTube and subscribe on there as well, mate. Help us grow the channel. We say that to everybody. Please subscribe to us. If you're watching us tonight and you're not subscribed on Facebook, YouTube, all your channels, please do. That's the least you can do. If you really want to go the full hog, become a member. Like I say, we had a great time at Huddersfield. We've got great events coming up throughout the year. Become a member. Come and be a part of the podcast, Final Hooter. And of course, if you're a woman out there, then Super League Raw Ladies Tackle Talk, become a part of that as well. But that is our team of the week for round number 2. Next week, of course, we'll see our team of the month for February. How quick that first month will have come and gone. And what I'm delighted to see is that nobody's fallen into the trap asking about Jez Litton and Dean Hadley. It wasn't a Super League game. So that is why there's no...
Dave, can I just ask, is Michelle going to be a Super League Raw member?
That is a great question. I think Michelle should be. I think Mr. Roach needs to have a word there. I really do. A very fine knowledge, it has to be said. And yes, Mr. Roach is punching. Anyway, that's part of it. No, lovely to have Greg's company and Michelle's company on Sunday. Right, boys. I do want to talk Huddersfield Giants, and I do want to talk Huddersfield Giants. But before we do that, let's take a moment to hear from Tyson Smoothy. Like I said, I promised Ollie earlier on for what would Oliver say, what's Tyson's view on when the World Club Challenge should be played. And we also caught up with George Flanagan and Max Jowitt after that game. So before we talk Huddersfield, Wakey, and of course Huddersfield going to Castleford, let's check in with those 3 players. Here we go. So here we are with Tyson Smoothy. Tyson, that was a hard-fought win, wasn't it?
Yeah, mate. Quality side, Huddersfield, and we had to play right to the 80th minute, and there's a few of those games in the last 2 rounds, so it was a good win from us.
And of course, your old Brisbane Broncos side going up against Hull KR. What did you make of the World Club Challenge?
Yeah, KR were up for it. I think they shocked the Bronx boys a bit early on, and then too many points to chase down in the end.
From your perspective, I mean, we talk about this on our show. Would you like the World Club Challenge to be at the end of the season so that the teams that won the championships go head-to-head as opposed to the new teams in the new season?
Probably makes sense, doesn't it? I haven't really thought about it too much, but yeah, I think as you bring it up now, it probably makes sense to do it. The same teams that played in the grand finals and coming off a good run, so yeah.
And how are you acclimatising to Super League?
Yeah, getting there, mate. I think it's going to take a few games to sort of adjust to it, but just looking to improve each week and hopefully build some wins up.
Yeah, we made it hard for ourselves. I reckon we could have been 20 points up in that first 20 minutes. There's just something not clicking at the minute. If that's maybe due to our spine players probably not grabbing all of the game as well as we should. Just unforced errors. We've seen that last week and it's cost us the game, but luckily enough this week it's not. I thought his defence were really good today. His middles were class. Obviously with the new rule changes in the ruck, I thought we handled that really well. But yeah, I just reckon it's early on in the season, but I think once we start clicking a little bit more and start executing as players and not giving up cheap field position, I think we'll be good.
I mean, you'll want to kick off from last year. Wakefield Trinity was so many people's guilty pleasure, to come up and do what you did. You want to push on, don't you, really? You don't want to be struggling, you want to be kicking into high gear as quickly as possible. Yeah,
we spoke about it last week after that loss. I think last year no one had any expectations for us to do anything special. They probably said we're going to go straight back down, and we proved a lot of people wrong coming in as underdogs at most of the games, and now it's changed a little bit. I think we've upgraded the squad. We're a better team than we were last year, so I think a lot of these games we're not going to be underdogs anymore, and we need to sort of realise how we take that challenge on as a team. And we look a little bit nervous at times, I think, but it starts season, it's early in it. I think we'll start clicking a little bit more.
I mean, look, we get into the detail at Super League Raw. It's fair to say, I mean, a couple of years back when you went down as Wakefield, you'd have been disappointed with your own form that season, no doubt about it. But then you were exceptional in the Championship, and everyone was looking, could Max Jowitt come back in 2025 and really hit the ground running? And you answered so many critics, didn't you, last year? You must have been over the moon with your form last year.
Yeah, pretty pleased. Obviously loads of areas still to work on, which I'm still trying to work on now. Look, I'm never going to be a finished article. There's always going to be stuff to work on, but obviously that year in Championship probably did me a lot of good, playing back with a smile on my face and just enjoying my rugby again. I think when we got relegated, it was tough. You're getting beat every week. You win 4 games in a Super League season. You sort of think to yourself, I don't want to do this anymore, and it was tough, but that year in Champs probably done us a world of good, not just for me but just as a club as well. And obviously you've got Matt and his family that have come in and taken over, and what they've done for us is unbelievable, and the lads can't thank Matt and his family enough, and we just want to repay them on the pitch. And of course, from your perspective, mate, the fact that you've got players behind you like Josh Vaughan, etc., keeps you on your toes. That drives you on every single week, because you can't take your position for granted, can you? 100%. I think we saw that last year. A couple of bad games on the go, and Rocky's there to take my spot straight away. That's for me me to keep my spot, and Rocky's a world class player. He shows that in training and when he plays as well. So he's there ready to step up, and I think even if I have to switch positions and go to half, centre, full-back, wing, I don't care where it is, just as long as I'm in that team, but that's down to me and my performances. I've probably not been as consistent probably the last couple of years. That's something I need to work on, just being consistent every week and performing and give Pally no doubt just to put my name down first on that team sheet.
Well, look, mate, you gave us a lot of pleasure last year, and you're going to give us a lot more pleasure this year. You go well, mate. Have
Cheers,
a great
pal.
year. All
Thank
the best.
you very much.
Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Great brace today, mate. Not quite enough, but lovely tries, mate.
Yeah, I'd change all that for a win today. I'm massively disappointed. I had a chance twice at the end and I didn't, and I dropped the ball as well. So I'm a bit disappointed. But look, we're on the right tracks. Better performance than last week. But it's not 2 points, and that's what we wanted.
No, you've said it there. I think against Catalan, I can imagine that you were pretty disappointed. But tonight, you've come up against a strong Wakefield team, and you competed and very nearly took it at the end.
Yeah, we did compete. We competed. We had many chances to put them away, but we didn't. But it's the start of the year, and we're not going to panic too much. But we need to bounce back now, and we need to get them 2 points on board because we're not far off, and hopefully next week we can do that.
Well, I mean, obviously Castleford now, both of you, 2 defeats from 2 games. How important is that game now for you next week?
Oh, that's massive probably now. We've not got a win so far, and we don't want to repeat what happened last year where we're waiting, further on in the season to pick up some points. But look, we'll dust ourselves off and we'll go again. We'll have a good week of training and go again on Castleford on Friday.
Well, look, mate, Super League at the end of the day, we love great quality players. Again today, you've shown your real quality out there, mate. We hope you go well next week, and all the best.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.
Fantastic, yeah. I've been that busy watching you coming in going, mate. I forgot to turn myself back on, but that's another story. It was really good to see Max Jowitt there. Good to see Tyson Smoothy, George Flanagan, a superstar. We know that. Incredible what he did in that 3 minutes. He's just box office, isn't he? Quite frankly. But it's fair to say it was a disappointing day at the office for you, Joel. Very similar to the World Club Challenge. Had it got another 10? Who knows? Because Huddersfield were certainly coming strong in that second half. But what I want to talk about now for the purposes of this, I think, I'll get your take in the wrap-up in terms of other things from round 2 that you want to talk about in terms of it really caught your eye. But for the purposes of this, I want to talk about what's coming up. And what's coming up for me is a huge game for this man. On this weekend, we've got Castleford Tigers taking on Huddersfield Giants. That's the game. And for me, for those who saw instant reaction, you heard Ken Davey, coming second in the 2-horse race is good enough. It's fair to say that Wakefield, even though they finished top 6, the Giants would have looked at that as a home fixture and gone, we should win this. And they very nearly did. They went to Catalan, who were very close to them last year. And it's fair to say it was a very disappointing performance down there. But there's no doubt about it. And it's exactly the same for Castleford. Both Castleford and Huddersfield will have looked at the fixtures and said, this is a game they have to win. Have to win. And I think because Ryan Carr has probably got a freebie in some respects, Ryan Carr's going nowhere. There's no pressure at this moment in time on Ryan Carr. He's going to get a lot of time. Luke has had all of last season, and yes, they had injuries. And the injuries are backing up again. I mean, again, some really bad luck for the purposes of people listening. Harry Rushton, Joe Greenwood out for 10 weeks. Ouch. Liam Sutcliffe out for 12 weeks plus. This is a guy who's played 5 games in 2 seasons. It's just unbelievable. No clue, no Evans. So again, he's without personnel. But there comes a point where you go, well, yeah, but we need to win. How big a game, Joel, do you believe this is already in the Giants season? And how big a game is it for your coach?
This will probably be the biggest game in the last 3 years. And the reason why I say that is because you've kind of hit the nail on the head. Look, Luke, I love Luke to bits, you know that. Always have done. But there comes a time in any coach's thing, and Luke will say this himself, he knows that it's a results game business. And he needs his players to bring out results. Yes, we've got 6 first-teamers out. And again, it's awful. It doesn't help anybody. You know, we've got some of the spine players not playing. But then I go back to what I said just last week about other teams. It's not about what you've got in your first 1 to 17. It's what you've got from your 17 onwards. And that can be sometimes your most important players, because they need to carry the squad for the rest of the season come towards the end. So it's okay seeing, coming out with excuses like, yeah, we've got injuries. Yeah, so what? Yeah, that try that I don't think should have been allowed. Yeah, so what? We could have put us, you know, if you take that into consideration, all right, if that try wasn't given, we'd have won the match. But the point is, we wasted 50 minutes of a game that we could have been playing like we did in the second half of the second half. If we played like that from minute one, we'd beat nearly anybody on you know, in the league this weekend. I think would have even taken Saints for a good run. So, you know, it boils down to two things for me. It's either attitude or it's to do with coaching. And I hate to say that, because clearly the coaching can be there, because it was there in the end. So it leads me back towards attitude. Because these players are now injured, does it mean that some of the players subconsciously are taking for granted that they've got their spots cemented in? Now, I don't think for a second that George thinks like that, because he's not that kind of player. He loves his moments where he gets a chance to play. But some of the more fringe players now are going to be more complacent, because they know that for the next 10 weeks or so, they've got a starting spot. So I do fear for Luke, not because I don't think Luke's capable. I think he's very capable. It's shown in the games towards the end of last season how well he could coach, having not many players there. It showed in the last 20 minutes how good we can play as a team. But for Ken, and you saw it there, Dave, with me, firsthand, he did not look happy. I've not seen Ken like that for a long time. No. A long time. And he almost didn't want to talk. You know,
yeah, he was great value. He was great value. I love the little jibe he gave me at the end as well. I thought it was comedy gold. I've got to tip the hat to him on that one. But no, you're right, and there was that little bit of spike there, and I do genuinely think this is a massive game for Huddersfield. They need to go and get the 2 points. They desperately do. I mean, Stefano, you were watching this on the telly. There are a couple of things for me. I think Burgess looks fitter. I thought Burgess had a really good game for Huddersfield. I think Sam Holsall's had 2 great weeks. I mean, that's superb try at Catalan. I mean, how he got that ball down, Steph. I mean, that was some try. I mean, you know, you saw Sevo score one, but there's a bit of difference in size between Sevo and Holsall. For Holsall to take on 2 players in the corner and to find the corner like he did, that's a real positive to see Sam Holsall. I thought Tula Lahea was busy in the game. I think Ollie Russell's got to do more.
Well, yeah, I think that's potentially one of the issues. I think I like to talk. Let's talk positives for Huddersfield for a start. They didn't give up.
No.
You know, they were the better side in that last 20. And again, like we talked about Brisbane Broncos, if that game had gone on 10 minutes more, I dare say Huddersfield may have won that game. But it's about how you start for me. And Hooky, you know, I've set that precedence. You know, if you allow yourself to get into that, you know, I was in my predictions. I predicted 18 plus Wakefield, and at one point I was ready to type in our group chat. I told you, you know, but fair play to Huddersfield. They came back, and that shows me that them players do want to play for Luke Robinson, and they have got some desire still left in them. That's the real positive, I think. I think it's the quality that's just missing, and you can put that down to the injuries. You know, Luke Clune is their number one halfback, and he's not playing. That's massive to lose for any team. So there are, I think, there's crumbs of evidence to say that Huddersfield could be a really good, you know, mid-table side in this division. And they have been incredibly unlucky. But you've then got to look at who's Luke got around him. Who are the physios? Who's the strength and conditioning? Because there's obviously a pattern here with injuries at Huddersfield. So it's gone past the point now of it being a coincidence. And they've got to look at the training methods and all sorts of things as to why a team can't be this unlucky for me. They can't be.
No.
But in terms of this game, I think it's massive, not only for Huddersfield, I think it's massive for Castleford.
Agreed.
And I agree that Carr has got time on his hands, but also those Cass fans have come with massive expectation. You know, they know it's not going to happen instantly, but you know, Toulouse will be one they circled as 2 points straight away in the start. We'll get 2 points there, and no disrespect to Joel or the Huddersfield fans. Based on last season, they will have circled Huddersfield as a guaranteed 2 points.
Yeah,
you know, and so this is why this game's so intriguing for me. Really early on, you can't after 2-3 rounds we can't be judging sides, but it has got that big game feel of it. You know, straight. You know, there's so many implications. We always see a coach get sacked early on. It always happens. It's not going to be Ryan Carr, like you said. I think it's a huge game for Luke Robinson. And I just hope those... And I genuinely believe that those players are playing for Luke Robinson. We wouldn't have seen them fight like they did to try and come back if they weren't. I just hope we see that against Cass and we get another really good game. And if it's a close game, again, then I think Luke's okay. The worry for me is if Cass, especially given Cass's results, if they go and put a score on Huddersfield, then I really do think that the clock is ticking for Luke, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It really, really is. In the interest of time, Reggie, I'm going to bring you in on something different, if that's okay.
Yes,
it's a massive, massive game. I mean, these are the games this weekend, and I'll just, you know, what a week. What a week we've got. Yes, we've got KR and Leeds in Vegas at midnight on Sunday morning, right on the dot. Wigan Leigh, what a game. Of course, all of these games we will be discussing in the Captain's Run. Tigers Huddersfield are unbelievable. FC now with the injuries going up against York Knights. And, you know, Greg, going back to what Steph just said a few moments ago there about Huddersfield, York, exactly the same. They carried on playing rugby at Leeds, even though the scoreboard had gone away from them. They carried on playing. Got that final try right at the death. And again, that shows that York are playing for Mark Applegarth, doesn't it?
Of course it does, yeah. You know, they Leeds Leeds had put on a great performance, and nobody would have predicted a York win in the first 2 weeks anyway. They did fantastic last week. That performance was absolutely, you know, sensational. Would be very, very hard for them to follow that up. But yeah, you're right. They still kept on playing. They still kept on performing right to the final hooter. And I think with Huddersfield, I like you say, there's not a lot can add to that conversation anyway. I think the players are playing for Luke Robinson.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. And then, of course, Warrington against Wakey. That's going to be a belter when we get into the Captain's Run. Of course, Captain's Run available 6 p.m. this Thursday as a webcast on YouTube or as a podcast. You can listen to it on the way to the game. So if you're going, Wigan Leigh is Thursday, isn't it, Steph? Yeah. So if you're on the game to the Wigan Leigh match, the first Battle of the Borough on Thursday night, then in the car on the way, you can listen to the Super League Raw Captain's Run, all the stats, all the key heads-to-heads, and the predictions that they will be given. And of course, Catalan taking on Saints, fascinating match again. What version of Catalan are we going to get? Can Saints go back-to-back with the injuries they've got? And then a massive 4-pointer at the bottom of the table. Bradford, Toulouse, both of those two teams will have ring-fenced a win in that game. Same with Castleford, Huddersfield. So again, because of the way in which the fixtures have shaped up, the Captain's Run will be a fascinating conversation this week. Now, before we get into the boys, a quick final 10 minutes with the lads in terms of anything that they want to do, any other business. I call it the wrap-up. We're going to call it the wrap-up in 2026. But in the chat earlier, one of our new, I know his name was McAnally. I'm just trying to remember what his first name was. But anyway, he did mention Ollie Ashell-Bott. Now, look, here at Super League Raw, there is a team of the week, but we also have a team of the month. And team of the month is all about consistency. That's where that comes in. And Ollie, for me, 2 rounds in, he's probably the most consistent fullback, without doubt. Ollie Ashell-Bott has been exceptional. 2 tries, 21 tackles, 2 breaks, 8 tackles, 1 offload, only 3 errors, 39 carries, 312 metres an average carry of 8. Ollie has been simply sensational. And I think what's interesting here, lads, is that Ollie Ashell-Bott, we've already looked at Wonga Blake, and this man, Paul Vaughan, these 3 players for me have embodied what is going to be required from the 3 newly promoted sides this year. In Paul's case, yes, Father Time is ticking, but he's been doing big minutes. He's been making the meters. He's been leading by example. Ollie Ashelbot come back to Super League and has been ripping it up. And Wonga Blake, as you said, Greg, a moment ago when we were talking about him, a player that maybe many people thought was not Super League quality, has said, hold me beer, I'll show you what I'm all about. And he's doing exactly that. So for me, these 3 players are, Greg, players that the other players within those squads should be looking at and going, yeah, that's the standard. That's where we need to get to. All 3 of them, 2 rounds in, have been a credit to their teams.
Exactly. Yeah. There's, in a nutshell there, Dave, Paul Vaughan, a very, very experienced forward. He's played in Australia, played at top level for Warrington. Exactly the kind of player you want leading the pack. A big guy, fearless. Ashelbot, skillful. Has had experience in Super League. And Blake, again, experience in a top team in Super League, may not have actually shone, but have that experience behind them that they know how a top team behaves in training, how they go about themselves outside of training, and can bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the 3. Just wanted to give them a shout out. Like I said, I do think that those 3 players are epitomising what is going to be required from those newly promoted sides. A great start from those 3. Really, really good indeed. Right, let's go to the wrap-up. Let's just go around the screen. Steph, will start with you and work round in clockwork in a clockwork fashion. Round 2. Over to you, wrap it up. I mean, from your perspective, what really stood out? Was it a try, unit? Over to you. What do you want to talk about?
Well, no, I just think it was. Well, I think you can't overlook Bradford, can you? That's the first one. 10,000 at Odsall, or just shy of, with no away fans. That was a real big plus for me. I thought it looked great on TV. I know the stadium in daylight it probably doesn't look the best, but for them to attract 10,000 is massively encouraging. We all want Bullmania back. I think it's, well, I say we all, some with a vendetta maybe don't, but the genuine fans of rugby league want a really strong Bradford side, and for them to attract that kind of attendance, that's some attendance only Super League clubs could dream of. So that was a real big plus for me. Toulouse, probably a bit disappointing on their attendance, but the result, fantastic. To have them sat 1 below Wigan is amazing after 2 weeks. And yeah, we're not getting I don't think anyone's getting ahead of themselves in terms of the way these clubs are performing. We all know they're going to have a result like York did against Leeds, but it's not a 90-0. And we've got to give these sides a bit of credit in terms of they've had 0 time to recruit. They've had 0 preparation, and they've hit the ground running, not only in performances, but also in fitness levels and the way they've competed with these sides. And I think that's what some people are missing. And yet, there'll be times in this season where these teams will probably get a score put on them, like York did against Leeds. However, that's not what it's all about. It's year 1. This is a 3, 4, 5 year thing where we've gone to this 14. What are these teams going to do next year is what I would be looking at, and it's fantastic for me that they have hit the ground running, because that shows that they've got and more so on the crowd front, and look at York in terms of their opening attendance. Let's hope that can continue, and there's no reason why it won't. So there's lots of positives, but I'm really focused on the 3 promoted teams and how well they've done.
Yeah, and I think, let's not forget, London Broncos very nearly put FC down. Toulouse, when they were up, very nearly put Warrington down. Yes, it's gone to an extra 2 sides. But the bottom line is, at this moment in time, they appear to be competitive, and it's for Super League to not talk it down. Let's hope that they can remain this competitive throughout. And again, using London as the caveat, I don't think anybody on this screen would disagree. Had London had been guaranteed Super League in 2026, they'd have recruited harder, and they were not a bad side last year. They really did. I mean, just ask Hull FC, they'll tell you. London Broncos last year, had they have had the certainties that they've been there again this year, Would London have been in a better place now than York, Bradford and Toulouse? 100%. 100%. I've heard about that. Now it's over to York, Bradford and Toulouse. And, of course, we know London, what they're doing in the Championship. It's exciting times for Rugby League. And like I say, it's not perfect. I agree with Steph. There are going to be times where you're looking at the score this season and going, but it's bigger picture. Let's hope they can continue to be competitive. Joel, anything for you that you want to pick out from round 2?
Yeah, 3 little points, if that's okay. 1 negative, but 2 positives. So I'll get the negative out the way, and then the positives. I think it's always good to finish your point on a positive. So the negative for me is, and I've got to say it, unfortunately, is the officiating. I am absolutely incensed by the decision that was made at the Huddersfield game. I hope you don't mind me saying it, Dave. We talked about it in depth in the car on the way home. How can a try that goes up as a no try from the referee, somebody doesn't have possession of the ball, there wasn't an intent to kick the ball, and then it gets changed to be a try on from the video ref? I cannot understand that in any way, shape, or form, and I don't think there's anybody on this planet that can change my mind otherwise. There was no way did he ever have the ball in his hands, drop it and kick it. He knocked on and he kicked the ball to get himself out of a knock-on. And we know that's the case because he passed George Flanagan the ball back as soon as he picked it up. So there is nobody that will tell me otherwise. And I might sound a bit stubborn there. Don't care. Second point. This is a nice one. This is a nice one. It kind of ties in with my third point is seeing how Bradford played. Now, Steph's mentioned this about Bradford. Someone did say that I think they might do a bit better than Castleford this year. I don't know who it was. One of 4 of us said it, and I got laughed at by a lot of people. Be careful who you're laughing at when we make predictions, because sometimes they can be true. And that brings, sorry,
2 rounds in, but carry on.
That's all. That's all I need to know, Dave. It's proved my point already. If they can do it 2 rounds in, they can do it 12 rounds in. But it brings me on to my third point. These promoted sides, and I'm backing up Steph's point here, these promoted sides have been a breath of fresh air. It's what we need. And for them to see that, even like you mentioned, Steph, with the York having a bit of a points fest put on them, it doesn't matter. The effort was still there. It was beautiful to see how York played Hull KR in the first game. Was Hull KR's minds on other things? Who cares? It was a great game. We loved watching it. And this is the brand of rugby and the hype we want about the game to continue. Are we going to follow an NRL thing and have 17 teams? Could we go to 20 plus teams in the future? Yeah, great. That'd be lovely if we can. And if the quality keeps going, improving, we have more grassroots players coming through and wanting to play rugby league, and the sport grows. So be it. Fantastic. Let's be the champions of this to become the case.
Well, what I would say on that is that what we've seen already this season, the World Club Championship, an incredibly competitive round 1, some lovely games in round 2. The Saints game, probably the yes, Bradford as well. One thing's for certain: any new adopter of rugby league, as a consequence of the earlier rounds, will be sticking around. These type of games, what we're seeing, when people discover rugby league, they will stick around, and what that will do is it hopefully will increase the amount of participants at park pitches, and what that will do then is grow the game too. Hopefully one day, as you say, Joel, getting over 20 teams. Why not dream? Why not dream? And that's what we're all about here at Super League Raw. This is the greatest game on earth. Let's be bold. Let's dream. Let's see where we can get. Lovely stuff, mate. Mr. Nixon, from yourself. It can't be Warrington this week. Different place, so go on.
Well, that's a good thing we didn't get beat. The other guys are still my thunder a little bit. I was going to concentrate on Bradford. 10,000 Norway fans. Wouldn't it have been great if the Rugby League had sat down and thought, you know what, Bradford, first home game back in Super League for 12 years. Let's put them up against Leeds and we'll pack that stadium out. Same with Toulouse. First game back in Super League. Why don't we put them against Catalan? Get more fans in that stadium. A little bit of foresight, a little bit of forward thinking there. 10,000 is brilliant against Catalan. I think the promoted sides have reinvigorated the competition. A lot of people were anti-14 teams, not us. We've always advocated more teams. I genuinely think it's invigorated the competition. More eyes on the Super League, more new places to go, more new fans, new grounds to visit. I think it's fantastic. Another footnote to what the guys were saying about the 3 promoted sides and the crowds is the number of touchline conversions this week was unbelievable. So, the standard of kicking has gone up as well over the first from last week to this week. So that was something that stood out for me. Some really good goal kicking this week stood out for me. But yeah, I'm absolutely over the moon. The new atmosphere, the new feeling for the Super League that these 3 teams have brought in.
Do you think the quality's been poorer, Reggie?
Not necessarily, no. No, we're always going to.
That was the big thing, wasn't it? With 14 teams, is that the quality would go down. Again, it's early days, but for me, the quality on the pitch has been better than I can ever remember it.
Last week there was very few. There were no blowouts last week. This week there were a couple. You're going to get blowouts in any sport. You're going to get a blowout and a surprise result.
But
last week surprise results. To lose are really kind of, must be pinching themselves with the start they've had. Sorry, Dave, go on.
No, they could be 6 from 6, mate. It could easily be 6 from 6. But yeah, you're right. Even in the Leeds game, take a bow, Paul Vaughan. Oh, lovely try. I mean, if you just get into those moments, and that's what forget the overall scores at time. Moments of games. I mean, the Ryan Hall try. I mean, the breakdown field from Leeds was. I mean, that was beautiful. Marvelous. We've mentioned Hall's try already. Beautiful. That's what you want to see, isn't it? Throughout the games, there was these moments, but at the risk of, and I don't want to end on this. We need to figure something else. But just on your point, I'm just working out the average, the conversion percentage across the league this week was 73%. That's not bad across all games. There's 90 odds, etc. But for across those games, for it to be at 73%, that is going some. But I'll tell you the thing that we haven't spoke about, and I just want to talk about. And like I say, we've got to fight. And I've got one good thing that I can say to finish the show on, if need be, if you can't think of any. Can somebody tell me how Adam Kieran wasn't a shoulder charge? Can somebody please tell me how Adam Kieran was not sent off? Because that this weekend, of all of the things I saw this weekend, I'm like, right, he's lost control. He's led with his shoulder. He's made contact. That word mitigation come out. Where was the what? Did he step on an ant? And the ant was the mitigation. It made him go a little bit taller. I mean, I'm sorry, but no. And when you consider, right, and this is the laughable thing about it, 3 years ago, we were all livid. When we saw the Oaklow FC player get sent off for a clash of heads, we were livid. It gone ridiculous. But that is a direct shoulder to a man's head. And in the very same game, Liam Knight, who tip tackles, but it wasn't Harry Smith tip tackle at Castleford. Let's get some perspective here. It was a tip tackle. It was, but we've seen quite a few of those where penalty sufficient, right? We've seen them this year. That has got the same disciplinary outcome as Adam Kieran's shot. Can somebody explain that to me this weekend? I was like, having a giggle. I think this is second yellow in 2 games.
I think if we want to criticise anything, and I do think the disciplinary process is now better in the point system. I think that's a really positive step. We don't want to see players banned every week. We want to see the best players on the pitch every week if we can.
Yeah.
But we've got to get the disciplinary right in terms of this point system. It's got to be right for the crime. In terms of what repercussions they get and stuff like that. It's 90% the way there, I think, in terms of the discipline. I think it's been a lot better, and we've not seen as many players banned. But it's a fine balance. It's a fine balance, and hopefully we'll get it right. But I don't think it is at the moment.
Right, so let's just quickly, just to test my theory, right? Greg, Adam Kieran. Penalty sufficient, yellow or red?
Red.
Same question, Steph.
I think it's borderline red, yellow.
Should it be seen as the same level of offence as Liam Knight's?
No.
There you go. Right, there you go. So yeah. And Joel, where are you seeing it?
Any shoulder charge for me is a red.
Yeah. I mean, he's a very lucky boy. He's a very, very lucky boy.
Just to say, Dave, would it not be worth looking at a certain other sport that gives a yellow that can be...
Turn him off, Dave. Turn him off.
No, don't. No. That would then, on video ref looking at it, would then become a red within a certain... look at it and becomes a red.
I do like that, to be fair.
I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely,
Yellow card, we're going to take a look, and if it's worse than it looks, it's a red. Even a 20-minute red that they brought in, where that player can't come back on, but a different player can come back on after 20 minutes if they don't deem it's a serious enough offence for the team to be down.
I like that one as well. I think it's a good rule.
I mean, let's at least investigate these so that we can see some more consistency, if you like. I agree with Steph. The discipline process has improved, and it seems less arbitrary, but still there's a little bit of a grey area as to where they're coming from. That a tip tackle can be the same number of disciplinary points as a shoulder charge.
Yeah,
and that's where we need again to kind of have a look at what's going on with the disciplinary.
Especially a tip tackle where he doesn't land really on his head.
He helped him down, didn't he?
But I'll tell you what, you see, this is the thing, ladies and gentlemen, right? In every season, there is an episode where Greg hits the nail on the head. And that was it. There you go. Well done, Reg. Only joking, mate. But I tell you what, though. It was such a good idea. But even Joel, imagine what Bella could do if he had 10 minutes to overturn a yellow to a red. I mean, if you can overturn a no try to a try at Huddersfield the way he did it the weekend, mate, could be happy days. But I don't want to end on a negative. I don't want this to seem like I'm not ending this on a negative. I just think that Adam Kieran's a very, very lucky boy. So let's end on a positive. Lovely to see Harvey Hill going back to the Brick Community Stadium and getting his try. That was a lovely moment this weekend. And it was also a lovely moment this weekend. Jordan Thompson getting a try in his 200th Super League appearance against Leeds, a team that he has also represented. Those were two wonderful moments in round number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that is another episode of Super League Raw Weekly. If you like Championship Rugby League, tomorrow, Craig and myself will be back every Wednesday night. I think I put 6 p.m. there. It's 7 p.m. Every Wednesday night at 7 p.m, Championship Rugby League with Craig Lingard. We'll be talking through all of the weekend's action and looking forward to the next round of the Championship. Of course, Craig Sheffield, second game of the season and getting a win. He will be in fine form, I am sure. And then the captain's run is back Thursday. We've already mentioned this. Listen on Spotify and Apple if you're on the way to the game, Wigan against Leigh from 6 p.m, or watch on YouTube. We will take you right up to the Sky production of that Battle of the Borough at the Brick. Game 1. Oh, it should be an absolute belter that to kickstart another fantastic weekend of rugby league. Graham Smith saying he's a great lad, Jordan Thompson. He's actually going to be on the captain's run, is Jordan. So there you go. So if you like Jordan Thompson, Graham, make sure you pick, you tune in Thursday at 6 p.m. Boys, another phenomenal night of rugby league chit-chat and merriment. The after-show party is available for those who want to carry on talking the great game of rugby league. Remember, yes, that's another member benefit. If you're not a member, you need to become a member. There's so many member benefits. And, of course, we'll bring you up to speed with the current Prediction League and Fantasy League, where that's up to in the captain's run as well. Some massive prizes on the line there. So join us for Championship Rugby League with 7. Join us for the captain's run at 6 p.m. on Thursday for myself and the panel. See you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.